Alright, guys. It is Warrior Tier time, and it is the timeline of the 40k universe by Trazyn the Infinite. This is the second thing from Warrior Tier I'm checking out today because I finally have my drip. Special thanks again to Warrior Tier for sending me this t-shirt. Guys, flat out, once I find out they open the store, you're going to have the links down below, so just be checking that. Be checking that. It looks good, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It looks good. This is the timeline of the 40k universe. I swore as soon as I got this shirt in, I was going to be sitting there putting it on. I was going to be sitting down. I was going to be watching this. And well, here we are. Warpugs, it is the timeline of the 40k universe by Trazyn the Infinite. What? This is the longest video by Warrior Tier that I've sat down to see by a huge margin. So let's get into it. Let's have some fun. And let's listen to the most massive dick in the entirety of the 40k universe talk. Go forth, Trazyn. Speak your truth. I already know this is going to be good. They were telling me how hard they worked on this.
My life's work. My museum. Our gallery. Within these halls sits the galaxy's most comprehensive collection of artifacts in existence. I have spent my long years cataloging the entire culture of all the beings I could, from the dawn of time to the present day. Within these halls are libraries, containing the last known words of countless races who have been cast to the harsh, uncaring winds of time.
The musical selection.
Truth be told, there are more galleries in my museum than a mortal could wish to visit in several lifetimes.
I have often said their musical selection is insanely on point, and it is not disappointing yet again.
Each hall is dedicated to a great empire and their achievements, but also their faults and inevitable demise. The history of the universe is filled with such empires, their names forever carved on the steel of time. There are others who accomplished little with their gift of life, their existences being short, painful, blighted tales. The tales of history are only reserved for those who earn the right to write them. I will show the halls of my library to guide you on the story of all of time.
All right.
As we start from the dawn of all existence.
I honestly, when I first heard what their plan was for this one, I was honestly looking forward to this. This was very ambitious. I'm loving it so far. Let's go.
Density, temperature, a singularity.
This is absolutely
initiating
wonderful.
The expansion. Primordial gas and cosmic dust sent into eternity to become everything we know or ever will.
The musical selection, my God, is on point. Okay, but
Gravity is the key to it all. Gravity birthed the stars. It connects the galaxies, guiding them in motion to their inevitable orbits. That haunting cosmic ballet played out over infinite millennia, forever churning in the restless flow of time. locked in the embrace of gravitational unity. Vast ages of time pass. Ancient evolution forms in the stars. Gravity guides worlds beyond count into existence. As the stars collapsed and more were driven into the infinite,
I love this.
the impossible happened.
I absolutely love this.
The first true life in the universe emerged, victorious, in an arms race of evolutionary barbarism.
I'm loving this.
I suppose I should introduce the Immaterium, the Sea of Souls, the Ether. It has many names. However, it is generally referred to as the Warp, an alternate dimension that has existed as long as the universe itself. Made up of pure psychic energy and raw emotions, the warp is endless, unpredictable, and terribly dangerous to those who cannot harness its power. The first conscious life was the star vampires, self-aware entities that appeared in the void between nowhere and nothing.
The Catan.
Beings of great power that consumed the energies of stars, feeding on the life force of the planets themselves. These parasites do not differ from any life in the universe. All life desires the same outcome:
I love this.
energy consumption and safety for their offspring. They would, with time, be known as the Catan. The cursed reptilian Old Ones scraped their primal forms onto the shores of worlds, long dead before even we Necrons evolved to stand upright.
Yeah.
The first true sentient beings to cross the vast reaches of the galaxy. They were the first to climb the long trail of evolution and self-awareness. Their ceaseless advances placed them at the top of the pyramid in this galaxy. They traveled through the stars like dust travels on the breeze, and even built what younger races would call the Webway.
The web.
Through the Webway, the Old Ones seeded life on hundreds of worlds. In their wake, they birthed countless untold species and cultures.
I've got to pause it here just to talk for a second. When I watch certain videos, when I see certain things like this, there's very little for me to add. There's very little for me to say. And frankly, I don't want to stop this video. I want to watch. I'll comment when I do, but God, something like this, I don't want to interrupt. I really don't, even though it's a filthy heretic speaking. Xenos. This is something that 40K has needed for a very, very long time. Something that is beautiful to watch, masterfully edited, and gives people an introduction. This should be the introduction to the franchise that people watch, because it gives the actual real world birth as well as the lore combined into it, and gives a short explanation with not like even the way the Immaterium was explained. If you don't know what the Immaterium is, he literally laid it out. He gave several names for it, and then he said it's the Sea of Souls, it's a realm of raw emotion, and then he went on. So now anybody that watches this and it's heard terms like the Warp, the Immaterium, things of that nature, they now have that idea in their head. This is a perfect jump off point, and let's go.
Life was cruel to our species. I need not tell you that. Evolving upon a cursed world, falling victim to the scorching heat of our nearest star, withering our bodies and lives. Our suffering evolved our culture and history. We built our empire despite the struggle and endless pain. We were worthy of the gifts the stars had shown to the others. our leaders met with the Old Ones. We begged for the cure to death, to show us the secrets of immortality. They refused us, refused our desire for life. And in their ignorance, they doomed themselves. There was no choice for us. We waged war against the tyrants. Countless generations ground to powder beneath the heel of the greedy and the vicious. Even with our unified empire, even with the might of countless worlds and millions of genius warsmiths, the strength of our dynasties was not enough to defeat the Old Ones.
Okay, there I gotta stop it, because this is told from the standpoint of Trazyn the Infinite, and the Old Ones were essentially immortal, just like Trazyn was saying. But when the reason that the Old Ones refused the Necrontyr, the knowledge or the technology to essentially either expand their make their lifespans longer, cure their flaws in the genetics from the planet they came on, because Necrontyr life was absolutely brutal. It was absolutely brutal. The star they were birthed near just wrecked them. It absolutely 100% wrecked them. They had short, miserable lives that were usually cut short by diseases. And diseases, cancers, growths. It was absolutely a miserable existence. And even when they got off the planet away from the star, they still had those problems. Now, the Necrontyr, when they approached the Old Ones had a simple philosophy that they didn't want to interfere in the development of other species. And on that basis, they turned them down. The Necrons declared war on them, mainly to keep their empire together, because their empire was on the verge of fracturing. And that was the real reason the Necrontyr declared war. Not what Trazyn is saying. Trazyn is trying to do what Trazyn does. He's being a Necron, and he's making a point that the Old Ones were somehow at fault for the war in the heavens, which is this war here. No. Rewind that. This is not quite the war in the heavens. This is the first war between the Catan and the Necrontyr. War in the heaven comes a little bit later. But, yeah, the Necrontyr were completely in the right to ask the Old Ones for help. The Old Ones were completely in the right to deny them that. But with the dynasties on the verge of losing control, they declared war on the Old Ones as a means to unify the empire, and they almost lost everything as a result.
The war was lost. The greatest defeat being that we were still cursed to weak, frail lives. The Old Ones banished us to the edges of the galaxy. They forced us into exile on our home world. It was then that the Catan came with their offer. The ancient beings of the cosmos had appeared. They came as gods, promising the gifts we desperately sought.
That's a lie.
We were all fools to believe them.
That's a lie.
After the agreements were signed, our people were put in chains and marched into the furnaces.
That's a lie. The Catan were essentially clouds of fart gas. They were semi-intelligent. Now, I don't know if this has changed in the past couple of years of lore. I don't know yet. But the Catan were pretty much... They were not really sentient as you would understand them. They had some level of sentience. What the Necrontyr did was they baited them into a living metal body. And the first one that they did just happened to be called the Deceiver. Once they got inside those mortal shells, they found out that certain things were a little bit better than star energy. Namely suffering, which, the more Catan came, more Catan were put into bodies, and that's when the Catan offered them the secret to immortality. And this is what happened when they did that. Now, I don't know if Necron lore has changed much. It's been a while since I've looked at it. I could be wrong about everything I just said. All that could be retconned, or it could have just shifted. I don't know. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments below. Moving on.
As our flesh and blood was ripped from our bodies, we became the machine. We were betrayed.
Really?
Catan. Those traitorous sun-eating dogs feasted on the souls of a whole race, an entire culture. How tragic, then, that the ambassador for the Catan was named
The Deceiver.
But our translators misunderstood and believed its name was the Messenger. The God War, the breaking of the void, the war in heaven. 5 million years of hate and flame. The Old Ones were driven back by the combined force of the Catan and us, their steel slaves. Wherever we Necron tread, life fades like a distant spark in a cold night. The Old Ones, those fools, they grew desperate, creating the Eldar to help them in their losing war. A race of decadent, hedonistic artists to fight steel gods. Fools. They created the fierce Krork.
The reason they created the Eldar was because the Necron don't really have a presence in the warp, and the actual fact that they created the Eldar as a highly psychic race. There's two theories on how this happened. Trazyn obviously subscribes to the latter. The first is the Eldar evolved. The second is they were created. I lean toward the created part too. Now we learn about the Krork, and if you thought orcs were ridiculous, you're in for a treat.
A species that thrives on war and the desire for war. Little did they know of the plague they were creating.
Yep.
And on a small habitable world, it was said that they also seeded baseline primate life.
Earth.
As the last defense strongholds are on the verge of collapse, after we have flayed the minds and spirits of countless Old Ones, they formed their last doomed battle line. As the Old Ones were pushed into oblivion, Zarek, the Silent King, led our armies against our slave masters. We turned on the Catan. The Catan were weakened by the war against the Old Ones and the threats of the Eldari and Krork armies. The Catan were shattered, defeated and placed in our stasis chambers, made to watch from containment as the race they sought to enslave freed themselves.
Something about the Krork. The Krork, now your typical decent-sized orc is going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 feet. The war bosses are going to be sometimes 12 feet to 15 feet. Gazgul Mag Uruk Thraka is larger by a high measure. None of those are the size of a Krork. Krorks don't exist in 40k anymore. If they did, everything would be in ruins. Krork, the size of Krork was the shortest Krork would have been about the size of a dreadnought. I'm just saying it like that. They were massive. In moving on.
The mighty Catan were not much more than prisoners, forced to watch us live on, despite their evil desire. Weakened from the wars, we faced the new threats of the multiple upstart races, the Eldari, the Krork, and so many more. The Silent King decided our fate. We were to wait in silence as our armies rebuilt. We need not fear time like our puny carbon-based enemies. It is during this time the Eldari developed their technology at an exponential rate, becoming the dominant force in the universe. It seemed they had advanced their species to immortality, But how long could they sustain their own desires?
Not long.
I
Yeah,
admit,
well, long time.
I am partial to the Eldari. Their great works are unrivaled. Their ability to will a world into being is haunting. We must speak about the so-called human element, as their empires take up many halls of my museum. Though sometimes unhinged and unpredictable, they are interesting and present true promise for us. We will cover much of their history, difficult as it is with the conflicting dates set by the Imperium itself. But no matter, we will account their records from our own sources.
I love it.
Imperial records will be our guide. Or should I say, those Imperial records which I have procured will be our guide.
Stolen. Trazyn the Infinite is the Blood Raven's Primarch. I swear to God.
I always found them to be of great amusement.
Thank you, prick.
They had begun on a small Class 54415 planet, on the edge of the galactic arm of the Milky Way. They had first crawled from the primordial ooze as advanced water-based life. To think that glorified fish now wrap the galaxy in an iron fist is enough to burn my central processors to solder. However, as we slept, these fish people became baseline primates, Class 4 beings. For much of their early existence, the primitives accomplished little. It was their use of tools that separated them from the other animals of creation. From the first moment a cave-dwelling savage struck a porcine variant with a rock, it was all over. Slowly, they invented pottery and the bringer of security, that is fire. It was then that the warp entities had emerged from the void, the first knowledge of the immaterium. The damage from our wars against gods had ripped wounds in the universe. From these wounds came the apparent gods, extremely powerful creatures that bask in the souls of the dead, growing ever in power. The mortals referred to the beings as the Chaos Gods.
Yes.
They were named Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle. What are three more pathetic void beings against the might of this galaxy? We have killed greater beings before. We may have to do so again. It is at this point that the Eldari learned the secrets of the webway and continued their dominance of the stars.
God, this artwork is beautiful.
The Imperial myth concerning the birth of their God Emperor is as follows. Seeing the inevitable fate of humanity to be consumed by the Chaos Gods, a group of humanist shamans banded together to stop this future. They had devised a plan to save their species from the thirsting gods committing ritualized mass self-annihilation. As the shamans died and their souls entered the warp, the power of the souls overwhelmed the beings that inhabited that dead void. The soul of their soon-to-be emperor was birthed and made manifest in his physical form. I must add here, this is perhaps one of my favorite twists of fate in all of history. Deep within a black stone complex, which crashed on Mars before the rise of humanity, is the Noctis Labyrinth.
Yes.
Within walls built 65 million years ago by us, lies the ancient Void Dragon. Imperial myth tells us that it is believed that the Emperor conquered this dragon on Terra. After this defeat, it was imprisoned beneath Mars for all time.
Let's see what he has to say
Little do they
about.
know, those red-robed clicking iron princes, that their Void Dragon is a Catan let loose by corrupted slumber codes.
Okay, so if you've ever heard, I believe it's St. George. St. George, I'm pretty sure. The story of St. George slaying the dragon. That was the Emperor. That was the Emperor of mankind. And at some point, he defeated it, he took it to Mars and imprisoned it. Don't ask me how. Do not ask me how. I just know. There is no way I know how he did it. I would love some stories of the Emperor's early days.
I wonder how they would react to the news that its real name is the Eater of Knowledge.
No surprise there.
The humans began their empire on Terra. Their grasp of technology is slow. They spend much of their time throwing sharpened tree pieces at each other. Terra had a multitude of cultures, each one's god more important than the other.
Of course.
It was during this time that the Chaos Gods had fully awakened. With the abundance of new souls, the Chaos Gods had grown stronger. One human myth is that these events in their early years manifested the gods. Khorne was born in the charnel pits of millions of dead humans. Nurgle vomited into the universe in the wake of the vast catalogue of their illnesses. And Tzinch during the artistic awakening periods of each unique Terran culture.
Yeah, I have never been a subscriber that Khorne awoke during the Crusades, that Nurgle awoke during the Black Plague, and that Tzinch awoke during the Renaissance. I think that's ridiculous. I actually think they woke up a lot sooner than Trazyn than they're actually saying in this video. I think they woke up a lot sooner than that. They first started manifesting most definitely when the War in the Heavens.
How arrogant to think that the universe would notice their tiny conflicts.
True.
Humans had conquered their homeworld. They had experimented with the possibilities of
the
travel
Event
through
Horizon.
the
I
immaterial.
love it. I love the fact they have the Event Horizon in here. If you guys don't know, the Event Horizon is in every single way, flat out a prequel story for 40K.
Still unsure of how to harness its power.
I
for
love
space
that they
travel.
put this in here.
They had developed primitive spacefaring capabilities
SpaceX.
and set off to terraform their solar system. They have always been amusing creatures, thinking themselves masters of the cosmos, even back when fire was their most advanced achievement. In essence, they are simple jellyfish.
Thank
a travesty
you,
of
prick.
nerves that stems from an inferior brain, piloting a suit of bone, wrapped in decaying meat. It is their arrogance that I enjoy so much. They were never meant for the stars, yet they do all to conquer each parsec. They fight amongst themselves more than any enemy. Tranquility makes them squirm. They lived for war. The humans built colonies throughout their nearest worlds, a slow process due to their primitive spacecraft. They continue to do what they do best, build and breed.
Lovely, thank you.
Worlds are terraformed and colonized. Sublight travel was their archaic way
I love that's a rifter from EVE Online.
of colonization, each colony drifting farther from the home world of Terra. Overexpansion resulted in loss of communication. It was only a matter of time before this formula would collapse into bedlam and chaos. As the years drifted on, countless interstellar empires emerged, trading throughout the galaxies. Most of these supposed empires bore me. They prosper for such short spans of time. One does not even need to remember their futile existence.
That's insulting, but okay, I get it.
The humans furthered their grasp on nature, bending any resources they could find to their greed. Colonies stretched into the vast reaches of solar systems, overextending their empire. The myths of the Emperor continue to grow. It is said the Emperor arrived on Molech and found a portal into the Immaterium.
Which he did.
A deal was made with the Chaos Gods for the gift of knowledge of warpcraft, allowing the Emperor to create the Primarchs. The Eldar Empire had grown into the most advanced civilization in the universe. They had achieved the apex of technology.
The Eldari, after the Necrons went into their slumber and the Krork slowly devolved back into the Orcs, the Eldar essentially became masters of the universe, and they stayed that way for 60 million years. There was nothing that could challenge them. They only became more powerful. They invented their gods, and they screwed it all up.
Creating their own desires from will alone. Lesser races proved no threat to their domination of the stars. The human gene saw an evolutionary jump. There were sudden appearances of psychers, as they call them. Cursed individuals who can draw power from the immaterium. Humans who developed the navigator gene allowed the first human navigators to make the passage through the warp. The great navigator bloodlines controlled warp travel.
Yes.
The humans continued to explore and colonize all that they found. Treaties were signed with dozens of xeno races. It was truly a golden age for humanity. Technology often gets the better of the primitive species that craft it. The promises of comfort and ease of existence has led to the downfall of dozens of species. It was then that man's greatest creations, their slaves, turned on their masters in force. The cybernetic revolt, as it was once called, started with the men of iron.
Yes.
Anarchy ripped throughout all of humanity. The golden age of humanity ended in brutality. Who knows how many billions lost their lives, or what technology was destroyed in the process.
Oh, God.
Across the stars, another empire fell to time. The Eldar had enjoyed their moment of success. Technology was not their downfall. Their own desires tore them apart. Sheer physical impulses and depravity broke them. Their yearning for lust and pleasure cursed their kind. The being that spawned from their depravity forever changed the course of the stars.
Yeah.
It was then that the being known as Slaanesh came to be. The Eye of Terror that came to be from the creation of Slaanesh obliterated almost all of the Eldar.
Yes, it did.
She who thirsts, as some have called Slaanesh, feasted on billions of Eldari souls. Some of the Eldari foresaw the dark future and left their homeworlds behind. The craft worlds were all that was left of them now. Vast, floating cities that are slowly fading away. As a fan of theatrical renditions of historical events, I find the performances from this era to be especially entertaining.
Huh.
The humans had peaked in their scientific advances. The historical blueprints, or as they are more commonly known, the standard template constructs, became the database of all human technology. Humanity was plagued with warp storms that appeared throughout the far reaches of the galaxy. Warp travel was impossible, and the colonies began to erode. This is a difficult time for my collection. Almost all the important artifacts had been stolen by that damned Mechanicus. Ugh, if only I were awake during this time. The humans are easy candidates for the corruptive powers that inhabit the warp. Through the warp storms, psychic energy flowed into space. The weaker of humanity's psychers suffered from demonic possession. The human race tore itself apart.
Yes. The Age of Strife, which is what he's beginning to talk about, was... it's very difficult to pinpoint what brought it about, what brought the golden age of technology for humanity to a screeching halt. And the best historical comparison I have ever been able to make is the Bronze Age collapse. Which, if you ever do any reading about the Bronze Age collapse, you hear about this thing called the Sea People. And listening to that, like listening to the Sea People invaded and blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. But there's a lot more that went into it. The Bronze Age civilization of, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Greece, and, other places in Europe, as well as Africa, didn't collapse because of just one group of people. There were several things that happened in a sequence that led this entire civilization to these pockets of civilization to simply fall apart. And the fall of humanity to the Age of Strife, I feel, is in the same kind of general, thing. The warp became more turbulent towards the nearing of the birth of Slanesh. Warp travel becomes harder and harder to do. The Men of Iron rebel. All this other kind of stuff happens. Colonies begin to go, begin to lose cohesion. The Aldari are just completely gone at this point. And then you have the Psyker problem, where Psykers just literally start going completely crazy. It all added up.
The Emperor of Mankind began his plans for domination. He began work on creating the gene seeds that would lead to the formation of his 20 sons, or as they are more commonly referred to, Primarchs. Imperial record fails to state exactly how this event occurred. It only states the Primarch embryos were scattered throughout the galaxy. All blame is laid at the feet of the Chaos Gods for this deed.
Yep.
But who can really say? The Emperor set out on his quest to find the missing Primarchs. My sleep was suddenly over. Myself and other High Lords awakened from our slumber. My initial excitement evaporated as the realization of how much time had passed. I had to continue my work. It was my duty to my dynasty to store the relics of our past. Even that miserable little pile of secrets Urakin was awakened. However, this was not our time to reclaim our galaxy. What a time to be awake, to witness this short era of grandeur. This story of this era contains artifacts that are amongst my favorites in all of my museum. The warp storms that plagued mankind for over 5,000 years drifted away. The Emperor of Mankind was known as the greatest Psyker in history.
It's said for most of lore that the birth of Slanesh blew out most of the warp storms that were occurring in the galaxy at that time, making warp travel once again possible. Not easy, but possible.
He united the people under his rule during the Unification Wars.
United.
He made a pact with the cult Mechanicus on Mars.
By trickery.
He expanded the human empire while discovering his wayward sons.
By brutal conquest.
The blood that was spilled was that of legend. The humans had set to take hold of the galaxy, swallowing everything in their path. Unity was always their strength. Yet, they denied it at every chance they could. The Emperor was the key to their survival. He colored his legions and sent his sons to fight his wars. I witnessed such glorious battles during this period.
There was a lot of them.
So much occurred during these times. So much to record, to document, to preserve. The artifacts from this era are amongst some of my favorites. The Primarchs had been found and sent on their various quests for the Emperor. The Great Crusade had come to an end. Humanity had become the dominant life in the universe. Imperial history recording events during these times had been subverted.
Yes.
So much has been altered to appease the masses, to appease the Inquisition and the religious maniacs. What is known as fact is the Emperor's favorite son, Horus, had betrayed the Emperor. He and half of his brothers rebelled against the Imperium, and I was there to see it play out. The Battle of Istvan III was where the treachery transpired, with blade and firearm. To see the armored warriors battle, brother against brother, it was as beautiful as it was tragic.
Oh, Ferris.
I remember being impressed by the humans. My theory of their hatred of peace was proven once again. How they loved to fight. The eternal war had begun. Above...
It's funny how it's called the Eternal War when the first war between the Necrontyr and, well, the war in heaven lasted 5 million years.
Terra, another civil war had already begun brewing.
Yep.
The Mechanicum split into two. The Red Robes believe in a being they named the Omnisire. Many believe the Emperor was not the true avatar of the machine god. Many believe that the Emperor is, in fact, the Omnisire made flesh. An epic battle took place above what the humans had once called the Earth. The traitor sons of the Emperor invaded the human homeworld. They had come to kill the Emperor and take control of the Imperium.
Yep.
This was a staggering battle for beings such as humans. The final battle occurred between Horus and the Emperor after millions were killed by their blood brothers.
Trillions.
The final blows were landed by the Emperor and his favorite son Horus. A clash that left the Emperor fatally wounded. It is a shame what happened. The Emperor slew Horus, who, in fairness, had it coming.
Yeah.
Much to my annoyance, those loyal to Horus managed to steal his remains away. How I wished to have Horus's armor in my collection. I have spent many centuries harvesting rumors of the remains of the arch-traitor. The fatally wounded Emperor was interred in the Golden Throne, a technological marvel from humanity's old world. Technology the Mechanicus hardly understood.
Still doesn't.
This was the end of the human reign of superiority. It had come to a glorious finale. The fact that I'm reasonably confident that the Golden Throne is our technology is not important.
It is.
The times following the Horus heresy were boring in comparison. Humans fell back once again into predictability. It was black or white from then on. The Loyalists gradually reclaimed the Imperium, pushing the traitor forces that aligned with the Chaos Gods back into the warp. The 9 Loyalist Space Marine legions are divided and began their own quests throughout the galaxy. The humans desperately wanted their place at the top. As they struggled, other races grew in strength across the galaxy.
Yep.
The Drukhari had formed back when Slanesh the Depraved was birthed. They saw the event as inevitable and accepted their evolutionary destiny. They are a brutal race, arrogant, hedonist, and vile for the sake of nefariousness. There were none in the galaxy who rivaled their cruelty.
None.
A slave in the city of Komorra named Vect swore to be the ruler of the Dark City. He was ambitious and founded his own group known as the Cult of the Black Heart. With a devious plan, he betrayed the leaders of Komorra and had the humans kill his enemies.
The way that Vec did this, I'm not going to talk about. I highly recommend you check that out, though. The way the Vect was so sneaky. He pulled it like Zinch was clapping.
With the leaders weakened, Vect took power and led the Dark Eldar. What he led them towards is unknown. These beasts created nothing. They offered nothing. They reveled in suffering just as the Catan did. They are beneath our regard, but have earned our disgust. The Orcs attempted to claim their position at the top of the evolutionary chain. The ancient race had swelled in numbers over the millennia. An Orc war boss known as the Beast built an impressive army that rampaged the universe.
Now we go from talking about a funny story to a not so funny story. Guys, The War of the Beast, I can barely recommend for a multitude of reasons, but moving on.
It was during this time that the Greenskins became a threat to all. I find them to be similar in some ways to the humans, warring against each other, obsessed with power, obsessed with what both races call loot. Loot. What a crude word.
Yep.
Both believe their technology to be superior to all. Another life form that idolizes the spirit of war, the Astartes, were able to stop the Green Wave, at great costs, however. A new species emerged from the dust of the cosmos. The Flesh Robotics first discovered the Tau on a distant world. The Adeptus Mechanicus ship, Land's Vision, found the primitive species.
My hate.
The blue creatures were simple in nature, having only learned to use simple tools and fire. Simple creatures that were of no threat, but still, Their elimination was ordered as they were to be destroyed for the good of the Imperium. Before the planet could be annihilated, it was surrounded by a violent warp storm. The wars soon to take place changed the fate of their world. The Imperium abandoned their plans for colonization and left the species to their fate. I am sure the Imperium uses this story to drive their agendas. The Tau were able to unite under one banner.
Okay, so real quick, aside from the warp storm, another big reason was the Age of Apostasy, which was happening at that time. The 5-ish minute lore on Gog Van Dyer and the Age of Apostasy is on the channel.
They claimed to stand for the cause of the greater good, a seemingly effective form of governance.
No.
As the centuries passed, the Tau built their empire, diving into different castes. You may encounter them. They will speak of all these castes, bar one, the ethereals.
Right.
These ruling beings are conveniently forgotten about in the Tau propaganda. These faceless elites are the true ruling class of the Tau. The Fire Caste are the fist used to quell rebellion. The Earth Caste show off their medical capabilities to lowly serfs. The Air Caste blockade worlds and offer free transports. And of course, the Water Caste, those silver-tongued diplomats. They promise so much to anyone with the oral receptors to hear. These upstart fledgling fools must learn to tread carefully. They do not have the ability to confront the Imperium that they berate. Only Father Time will tell whether these masters of masquerade will live or die.
Preferably die.
Another rise in power for the awful Orcs. Centuries of crusading had weakened the Imperium. Humanity teetered on the verge of collapse. The Orc invasions were relentless.
Yes.
Even worse, the more the Orcs suffered, the more they grew. Countless star systems fell to the green wave. It is their chaotic nature that holds them back from remaining atop their evolutionary chain. A culture predicated on the desire to be bigger and stronger than the rest can only go so far without true governance. Even with their simplicity, the damage they caused almost destroyed the humans. It was not our time to rise. Our armies were set to awake at a later date. However, our tomb worlds were invaded by the Adeptus Mechanicus on their quest to find the lost standard template constructs. They discovered our tomb worlds. Their curiosity and their degradation of the slumber protocols led to countless members of our race awakening. 65 million years of slumber. It was our time to rule the galaxy once more, to reclaim what we had died for. Our metallic bodies regenerated. Our weaponry was to mortals what the storm was to the stone. More of our tombs were awakened. Our armies began their conquest. The Silent King took back his rightful seat on the throne. It is our time once again. How the humans love to hold their martyrs up for all to see. No single world is a greater martyr than Cadia.
Yes.
In truth, I had believed the Terran method of time recording, BC, stood for before Cadia. They speak of this planet so often during battle. It was a world of much importance to the Imperium, and to be frank, the galaxy.
True.
The fall of Cadia is a loss. It was a weapon designed to remove the warp from our reality. Its loss must be lamented. During the 13th Black Crusade, the War Master of Chaos, Abaddon the Despoiler, launched a massive assault against the Loyalists. A unfathomable war broke out, and the planet was eventually destroyed. It was a significant loss for the Imperium.
It was lost because Abaddon threw a temper tantrum and flung a Blackstone fortress at it.
Losing such a beautiful world to their own traitorous kind.
God, this is...
One of the greater threats faced by the mortal races of the galaxy are the beings we labeled the Great Devourers, the Tyranids. The humans named them the Tyranids after their attack and consumption of Tyrant Primus. Revolting insectoid creatures that swarm world after world, consuming everything that stands in their path. All life is consumed by these creatures, consumed, studied, and improved on.
Yes.
Though they appear as mindless animals, they are sublimely clever beings. They have demonstrable hierarchies. They adapt and evolve in the moment to conquer any situation. Little is known of their history. There are no records of them before the Great Sleep. They appeared from the deepest reaches of space. The humans first discovered the creatures in the eastern fringes. Rumor has been said that they were first seen by the Inquisition as far back as the 35th millennium. Speculation and rumors, of course, but I still enjoy this discord. It is said that they have begun to surround our galaxy, ready to unleash their own conquest, after being drawn by the Emperor's light within the void. I cannot say if this is true or not. Others believe they are being pushed back, chased into our regions of space. All of this poses a great question. Are these beasts coming to this galaxy after having consumed everything they could in their own? Or, and this is not the ideal case, are they running from something greater?
Now, one quick thing about what drew the Tyranids to the galaxy. There was a bit of Necron technology called the Pharos Beacon. During a battle in the Horus Heresy, the Pharos Beacon, to make a long story agonizingly short, was overloaded. And when it did, it caused a massive spike in psychic energy. A huge psychic light got thrown out into the galaxy, even brighter than the Astronomicon. And it was this that got the Tyranid swarm's attention and started them coming towards the Milky Way galaxy. And that was 10,000 years ago. Now, there's a lot of rumors and speculation that the Tyranids were actually involved in the War of the Heaven, and they were created by the Old Ones. How true this is, we don't know.
If they continue their rude interruption of the drama that is the galaxy's unfolding history, I may have to add a new section to the gallery. Perhaps I will name it A Brief History of the Tyranid Species. The universe is at unrest. The rapidly growing threats to the galaxies have increased as the weak find power. All of us are grasping for our rightful place on the throne of the universe. All empires rise and fall. It is the destiny of all life to fade away. Life is a struggle for all who have fought to survive. Even the smallest of life forms face this turmoil. The weak become dust in the infinite darkness, never to be remembered. To rank which species stand at the top would be irrelevant in the current turmoil. They all cling to their spot, each battle and war gaining favor, or falling to the side to rise again. The great empires of the past have all earned their place in my halls. They each have a place in the history of the galaxy. The future of the universe will continue. Others will try to gain their spot, as did all the great empires of the past. It is a pitiful attempt. All life will wither and die. There is only one race that will succeed them all. We are immortal. We have learned from our mistake.
No, you haven't.
We will rule our galaxy once again. But humanity, in its rapidly breeding expansion, has offered us what we never thought possible. A means to return to the flesh times. We are the infinite.
I love it. I absolutely love it. This was 100 and just from start to finish. This was absolutely amazing in every way. I got exactly what I thought I was going to get out of this, and I was impressed more than I thought I'd be impressed. The there there are things in this that, from Trazyn's point of view, would be correct, but Trazyn is a biased observer. He's a very biased observer. He believes in his own the Necron superiority, and in truth, if the Necron tier empires were all to wake at the same time, it would be over. It would be over. The Eldari can't resist them. When the Necrons were first being found, oh man, it was a horror show for the Imperium. This was outstanding. I have nothing but positive, glowing things to say about this. And I've had a chance to speak to all these people that are involved in this. And it has been my privilege. And one thing with my own stuff, I often hope that my own stuff, like my own lore, will trigger something, laughter, because I mainly do what I do to have some fun, stuff like that. The Mistakes of the Emperor series is done to, still have fun and stuff like that, but this is stuff I wish I could do. This is stuff I wish I had the actual mindset to do and dedicate myself wholly to presenting things like this. I can't do that. I have my own way of doing things, in the same way they probably couldn't do things the way that I do them. But considering what they've done so far, I doubt that. I absolutely breathtaking. 100%. I can't say anything bad about this. Not in the slightest. There were some times I stopped and said something about the lore where what Trazyn was saying kind of differed from what was the established knowledge. But then again, Trazyn is a character who is biased. You ask an Imperial citizen what the history of the universe is, they're going to give you one story. You ask Trazyn, he's going to give you another. Which one's right, which one's wrong? You don't know. And this is the truth about it. We just simply don't know. We simply don't know. Guys, this was entertaining, educational. This is something I'd sit somebody down to watch for their first experience with 40K after hearing about it for a little bit. I'd sit them down. You want to hear what this stuff's about? Here you go. Here you go. And they'll learn things later on in time that'll flesh out all these areas that, are just given brief introductions and segues here. All those areas will get fleshed out, and they know what they were looking at. Again, I have nothing but positive stuff to say. Guys, that was Warrior Tears timeline of the 40K universe. Be sure to check the description below for Warrior Tears links. This is the unisex t-shirt that I'm wearing right now. It's really comfortable, I gotta say. Get on by there and get yourself one if it's available. If it is, I'm going to come back and add the stuff to the description so you guys can go by there and check theirs. Check out my own shop below if you're interested in some merch from me that was done by Valk. And I'm going to go now and just get ready to record something of my own. And I'm going to feel bad that I know, even though I know people are going to laugh at and have fun with it, it's not going to have the same emotional impact as this. And that is something I've been wanting to do. I want to display something that has a sheer emotional impact, and I know I'm capable of it. stuff like this that inspires you as a creator, as a person who makes their own and just goes their own way. This is the kind of stuff that inspires you. This is when I saw Baltimore's Imperial Fist video, I almost teared up at the beginning because I was like, this is his mastercraft at work, and this is Warrior Tears. This is a flat out statement. For me, Mistakes of the Emperor 6 was that statement, that I have come further. I have evolved as a creator. I have evolved as a lore smith. I want another one of those that I can point to and say, at this point, this is where I had everything going right. This is where I had everything. The Yarg videos are another example of that, of extreme long form videos. But this was impressive. The Dark Eldar video that I've seen from them recently, equally so. Guys, I'm going to head out. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this. This was amazing. And if you'd like to support the channel, there's a Patreon down below. And I'm going to head out, guys. I hope whatever you guys are doing today, you enjoy yourselves. And I'll catch you guys next time. This was absolutely amazing.